And welcome everyone to another One Up XP Show podcast. I am Michael Stevens, aka Flake of Wrath, and today another thing that I look at and be like, well, yeah, a lot of traditional sports have it. Why doesn't esports have it? But lo and behold, they have it now, and it is something that is very important, not only to parents and to players, but also to colleges. We'll get into that in just a bit, but first we got to run that intro. Here we go. There it is. And I am joined by Rick Suarez, the managing director. There we go. I got it right that time. Of Stay Plugged In, which, okay, for any parents or any kids that are listening to this podcast or just watching the One Up XP show in general, you might wonder, well, how do I get involved or how do I find out about scholarships and about colleges or all the programs like this? And I'm here to tell you there is something like that for not only kids, but parents. Perk your ears up. This is important. You can learn a lot of stuff from this podcast with my man, Rick. Rick, thank you for joining me, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm excited for it.
No problem, man. Like I said, we talked a little bit earlier, and I was like, when you find things like this, it's exciting because it is in traditional sports. Yes, there are recruiting platforms in traditional sports on every sport, but in esports, when you stop and think about things, there's not always those platforms, but you guys are that platform. So let's get the background on you and how Stay Plugged In came around. There's a very interesting story on this because I feel like I'm reaching out to these parents to inform them and educate them on esports and what their kids can do. And you were one of those parents back in the day.
Absolutely. Definitely one of those parents back in the day. You go back 5-6 years, my oldest son, who's the gamer in the family, really got more and more entrenched in the esports world, if you will. He's a baseball player growing up. As most parents, we get our kids started in traditional sports, whether it's Pee Wee football, Little League, soccer, whatever it is. And he just gravitated towards baseball, continued to play it. I've got two other children that play traditional sports between baseball, soccer, etc. And that's all I know. I actually still help coach baseball at the local high school, and I played baseball my whole life as well. So knowing that background, as my oldest son got more and more into video games and became better and better at it, I just didn't understand it.
Right.
That was a very frequent argument in our house was, what are you doing? It's a beautiful day. Let's go shoot baskets. Let's go do anything else.
Right.
But you play video games in your room all night. So rather than constantly have that argument, I decided at some point I had been hearing buzzwords about it and kind of seeing that space grow.
Yep.
So let me do a deeper dive. My son is obviously interested in it. Rather than fight them tooth and nail, let me find out. So what I learned, I entrenched myself first and foremost with a lot of people that knew about esports a heck of a lot better than I did, and still do. But what I learned was that the amount of opportunities that are available for high school students specifically in terms of pathway to college is unbelievably massive.
Right.
It's greater than any other traditional sport, period. And that's a pretty significant statement, but it is true. So I, being a coach in nature, said, man, that's all I've ever done, right? I only want the best for my kids. I want them to get ahead in life. I want them to go to school, get a good job in something that they love, and be successful as a person and as a businessman or woman. So esports is that conduit that I found out of the blue, just because of my son. There are so many different universities throughout the country that offer scholarship money, big scholarship money for esports, and small as well, and everything in between. And as a parent, that's all I could want, that opportunity for my son or daughter to go to school and potentially get a financial, backing, if you will, thanks to the passion that he already had, frankly. Right. So that's what we do. Stay Plugged In was formed basically to help facilitate that pathway for those students to get to college. But there's a significant educational component to it as well, because frankly, in the world we live in today, there are still a lot more parents like me 5 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Versus parents like me today. And even on the student level, frankly, there's still a lot of high school students that play, but they don't realize, well, if I talk to Michigan University, they have a huge esports club. If I went to Ohio State, they offer scholarships. That's two kind of rivals there, but I had to do it. If I went to Ohio State, I could get money to go and play esports. There's big name schools that do it, D2, D3 schools as well. It's kind of all across the board, but it's a national thing.
Yeah, and the numbers are, again, can continue to double every year. You're seeing programs. I think it's something like 450 schools in the country that have esports programs. I think 300 of them or something like that offer scholarships in some way, shape, or form in esports. And it's okay you made that rivalry little comparison because we hold the crown this year. It's fine.
That's
Um,
right. That's right.
but I love it. I love the fact that you come from a traditional background, traditional sport background, like I do, and it really I have to applaud it because you took the time out to research and you took the time out to learn what esports is because it is so young. It's in it. We say infancy, but I still call it still baking really because it is
Mhm.
so young in the fact that a lot of schools, yeah, are now starting to pick it up. D1s are starting to pick it up. There's a lot of D2s, D3, JUCOs. There's a lot of colleges that are picking these up, and there are scholarships not only for playing the game, but also for going for casting, also for going for game design, whatever it is. And you guys are that stepping or the step, if you will, to showing parents and kids that yeah, there is a lot to help out there, and you don't have to get an esports degree. You can get a degree in whatever you want, but get
Right.
scholarships in this to go for interest in video games. So let's talk about some of your achievements because yes, you guys are rather new, but you guys have some pretty good numbers across the board when
Yeah.
it comes to getting kids scholarships.
Yeah, no doubt. We love this year as we've kind of ramped up our website offering and everything else. And this year so far, we've facilitated almost $5 million worth of scholarship
Wow.
monies, if you will, yeah, to students that have gone on from high school to college, specifically for esports. We've actually had some of those dollars were sprinkled in for, to your point, and you bring up a great point, the educational component.
Yeah.
We've had a number of interns come through our space as video editors, graphic designers, casters, etc.,
Yep.
and they actually were given money for those skill sets around their esports program
Yep.
at those schools. So there's a wide variety of opportunities, whether you're a gamer or you can bring some of that other skill set to the program and you like esports, or you do a little bit of both.
Hmm.
That certainly helps. For me as a parent, I think beyond the money and those physical numbers, um, the best feel good stories from this year come from the fact that we've had numerous students that didn't think college would be an opportunity for them
Right.
because of the financial means. But going to some of our events and going online for some of our virtual tournaments, they were noticed by a couple of different schools and they were offered significant enough money where they're on campus now this fall and they're participating on that in that esports program at those college campuses. And as a parent,
I mean,
that's success for me.
oh yeah. I mean, that leads right up to the next thing is like the goals for Stay Plugged In. Obviously, as a parent, first, and then you're in this industry. Yeah, you just want to see them succeed. So I assume that's like obviously the big goal. But what
Mhm.
other goals do you guys have at Stay Plugged In? Whether it's business related or whether it's getting children and parents informed about esports.
Yeah, well, it would be more along our mission set. The business side will take care of itself
Right.
simply on the fact that it's a good offering. At the end of the day, there are so many kids, again, that just don't understand or realize what those opportunities are. And more importantly, again, that parental structure, we would like to change in terms of what the information the parents are receiving
Correct.
versus
Yeah.
what's accurate. Because I'll use again my background, and you're a traditional sports guy. I guarantee when you had a bad day, I know for sure when I had a bad day on the baseball field back in Little League, my mom or dad, would still say, "Hey, let's just go get some ice cream. Don't worry about it. You'll get them again next week."
Right.
It's great to get just to be out there with you and see you. Great, no worries. That's not the traditional sports,
No.
excuse me, esports rather, support system that most kids get nowadays,
Right.
right? Usually it's the opposite, like I was 5 years ago. So if you talk about what's our goal is to change that dynamic where
Yeah.
now that support is coming from home with, hey, little Joey or little Susie, this is your practice schedule. We get it. You love this. Make sure you foundationally do it correctly and you keep rising up the ranks, if you will,
Right.
so that at some point at the high school level, you'll have opportunities to go to college because of it. If you take away esports and put in any traditional sport, that's exactly what happens now.
Right.
So we just want to interject esports into that equation because again the opportunities are there.
And you're 100% correct because I mean a lot of kids nowadays, I don't know what the percentage is, but I'm sure it's rather high, probably don't share what they're doing, video game wise with their parents, probably because their parents don't understand it or they're just like, I'm kind of scared to relay to my parents I would like to do this as a college thing and maybe as a career. So there is, yeah, that dynamic needs to flip because, like you said, yeah, I get off the ice or something, or get off the football field or get off baseball field, and we're talking about how the game went, what I was thinking about, how, I took an aggressive turnaround first when I probably should have just kept running through first, and I thought I could have made second. So I mean, there's different aspects to it. Do I expect parents to learn everything about every esport out there? No, not at all. But
Right.
it's kind of like almost just push them, see what how the game went, or how Rocket League or Fortnite, or how all that went for them. It's just kind of that it's missing that kind of step into what is in
Yeah.
traditional sports, esports. So I mean,
Yeah.
that is a great goal to have, not only as a parent, but as as anybody who's looking out for college athletics, from high
Mhm.
school athletics to college athletics to possibly even pros. So that is certainly, you hit it 100% right on the right on the head of the nail. But looking at your website, I mean, some of these numbers are super impressive. I mean, you have 100% senior connection rate to college recruiters. 72% of high school recruits have a 3.0 GPA. That is, again, you're an athlete, or you're academics first, athlete second. That is a huge number. And when I
Yeah.
talk to a lot of the programs, a lot of those numbers are, those bars, they set them high, but a lot of those kids, they know that they have to do this to get that. And it's a super high GPA. To be honest with you, what I've seen in a lot of esports programs, a lot of those kids really do pull off fantastic numbers. 32% of high school recruits choose computer science or engineering degrees. And a lot of those schools have those esports programs. Also, I know cybersecurity is a big one out there as
Hmm.
well, and a lot of those programs are out wide across the
Yeah.
country. And it's just kind of deep diving into what school you would like to kind of pursue those degrees in. So again, hats off. This is again something that should be very known and very widespread to many kids and adults. But again, like we said, it's so young, it's rather new. But again, traditional sports background, you might be like, oh yeah, that's over in football, hockey, baseball, soccer. Why is it not here?
Yep.
But let's jump into some of the questions and get this podcast rolling. And I really want to start off the bat as a parent. What were your biggest concerns with esports? Because you said 5 years ago it was like, what are you doing? What are you wasting your time on? But a lot of parents, and this is where the parents' ears perk up. If you have these problems or worries, he probably had them too. But what were your biggest concerns with esports when your son brought it to you?
Sure. And I think it's pretty widespread across the board. I would suspect a lot of parents think the same things. But, first and foremost for me was lack of social activity, right? In
Right, right.
traditional sports, you've got your teammates, you're going to a ball field, and you build that camaraderie, right? And,
Correct.
and
Family.
rather than, yeah, no
Yeah.
doubt. Versus playing in a basement or playing upstairs in your room, kind of in the dark by yourself. So that lack of social interaction was always a concern for
Mhm.
me. Lack of physical activity, right?
Yeah.
Eating habits, the fact that maybe he gravitates so much towards the games that he doesn't do well in his grades and
Correct.
other things that you have to have a good balance and foundation for. So I think ultimately those were my biggest fears. I kind of spit out quite a few there, but I think those are probably fairly widespread.
Hmm.
And to address those, things that I've learned and seen, it's actually, again, foundationally done correctly. It's the complete opposite. Most of these esports programs, especially at the varsity level on college campuses, they're team-based sports.
Yeah.
It's not a 1v1 game. It
No.
is, usually 4 or 5, 6 people on a team together.
Hmm.
And one of the most critical components to being a successful team is communication, period.
Correct.
You've got to be able to let everybody else know what's going on, what you're seeing, what you're doing, what you're anticipating, even more so, frankly, than traditional sports. And it gives kids the opportunity to become leaders of that group, right?
Right.
The camaraderie by far is there. We've had a couple of live events as COVID has kind of died out little by little. Um, and some of the best things, again, over this past year, we had a couple of kids that had competed against each other virtually
Hmm.
over the year, but this was the first time they got to meet each other in
Right.
person. And I kid you not, they were in the hotel lobby almost 3 hours
Yep.
just chit chatting,
Yep.
catching up, being so happy that they were able to kind of see each other meet for the first time. And the reality is that's how kids socialize nowadays anyway. If you really think about it, I'm a
Yeah.
little bit more old school. I was on the phone or went out to the park to meet up with friends and buddies and things like that. It's a digital age. It's a different generation. At
Hmm.
the end of the day, they're on their phone, they're texting, they want that quick information right out of the gate, but they're communicating
Yeah.
pretty much during gameplay with their friends. And that's kind of how they get their stress relief, if you will, in respect to this is my outlet to be with my friends and socialize. So it was actually the complete opposite of what I thought. And a number of these collegiate programs have a physical regimen.
Oh
They
yeah.
have a workout routine. So
Yep.
it's actually awesome. The fact that, as a parent, you can let them go and realize, yeah, they're going to have the same type of workout routine that you would potentially get in a traditional sports program on top of that.
Correct.
And you mentioned it already as well in terms of GPAs. All of these academic institutions hold them to a high standard
Correct.
from a GPA perspective. So
More so, usually than what the NCAA usually holds traditional
right,
athletes to. So a lot of colleges set that bar even higher than what the NCAA would usually regulate. Obviously, NCAA doesn't regulate esports, so there is no bar or rules for that. But college
right,
programs that have them usually set it just a little bit above or way above some of those standards that the NCAA holds to traditional athletes. Which I know, granted, sports will hold it. More traditional sports will raise the bar anyway, but the NCAA has their own bar for that. But yeah,
yeah,
you're 100% correct. There's a lot of there's a lot of physical aspects to it, and when done correctly, you're getting a lot of those. I call them soft skills. The soft skills that a lot of those kids you might think won't have or experience. You get a lot of those in those programs, and it is one way. It is very different. I had the same type of deal when I went to a Fortnite event when I was a pro. We're in a hotel lobby and everybody and their mom was there to compete. And we met kids that we had competed against for years. And this was the first interaction that we got to sit and talk to them face to face. And it was really cool to actually, meet these people in real life. And with these live events coming back slowly but surely, a lot of colleges are having their lands back. A lot of high schools are starting to get their lands back. And it's like, wow, that's a social aspect you don't normally receive. I'll say it 100 times over. When you're in a room with someone, a teammate next to you, you feel more pressure and responsibility of playing the game better than when you would have just like you and me talking over comms, because you have more responsibility for a teammate. And when you're just playing and jumping in a game, you don't really think about that. You're just thinking, oh, well, we'll just respawn and go again. But when you have someone next to you that is kind of holding you responsible and holding to your gameplay, completely different. So I again, as a parent, if you're as a parent saying it to me, I was just like, yeah, he got it. And I just hope more parents, kind of get it as well. It's not a waste of time. And with, like you mentioned, esports falling under a lot of athletic branches, they have the trainers, they have the workout room, they have the regiments, they have nutritionists, they have doctors, trainers, anything at their will to use. And that is a huge thing when it comes to esports, because the biggest thing that you said, when done correctly, yes, it is just like many traditional sports in many aspects. It's not the same as hockey, but there's qualities there that are the same. So now as Stay Plugged In, that it's here and growing and you're getting kids in front of collegiate programs, what can you share with parents to help them see what is going on? So like if a parent wanted to understand a little bit more, or if a kid wants to know how to get in front of college college programs, how do you help them see what's going on?
Yeah, I'd say first and foremost, definitely head to the website, take a look, peruse around. There's a number of events. We will host a number of panels as we get into the new year, where we'll have a variety of different college coaches from throughout the country come on, periodically, so that they can really help educate not just the parent but the student as well, what their campus life is like, what they're looking for from an esports athlete and everything else, because everyone's different, right? Michigan football, they're looking for top level athletes so they can beat the heck out of Ohio State year after year.
Right.
Period. Whereas there's other schools that, hey, you know what? You may not be that top level athlete, but you're really good and you absolutely fit the culture of what I'm looking for my football program.
Right.
Well, esports works the same way. There's a number of programs that they just want to win, and that's fine. They're looking for the best of the best. But what surprises a lot of students, because we'll get feedback from a number of students that maybe I'm not good enough at Rocket League, so no one would want me. Nothing could be further from the truth. Regardless of your skill set, there's going to be a place that you can fall.
Correct.
So I think the first thing for both parents and students is, investigate a little bit, see what's local to you. I think that would be the first eye-opening exercise, regardless of where you're listening from or where you live.
Right.
Just do a Google search of universities in your area, and then from that, Google their esports club or team.
Yep.
And I would almost guarantee 100% of them are going to have something, whether it's a club or a varsity program.
Yep.
So you'll start to find yourself understanding as a parent, the magnitude of what those opportunities could look like that are right literally in your backyard. And that's national, no matter where you are in the country. If you were to do that, you're going to find those opportunities.
Yeah. And a lot of those programs have varsity, they have junior varsity, they have several different teams under them. They have the club teams. I know some of them that I've talked to, like Oakland University or Detroit, has
Yeah.
something like 300 kids in their program alone. So there's
Yep.
many teams, not just the varsity team or JV team. There's multiple teams around multiple different games, all in one encompassing category. So
Yep.
yeah, don't feel bad if you're like, oh man, there's just 5 kids for this. And no, there's going to be many different levels, many different teams. So there's much more to offer. And you mentioned your website. We have it here, and I'm showing it just below me here, but espin.gg. And you can check everything out on here. They have all the games. They have, again, some facts for you. They have their registered tournaments that you can register for when they are. And then they also have college coaches, if you're listening to this. They have where you can go to track thousands of esports athletes. So they have a bunch of things on here that will definitely help the education for parents, for kids, anybody that is looking into it. Because, again, this is something that, we haven't run into esports, but it's here now, and it's a tool,
Yep.
not only for the kids and the parents, but also for college campuses or college programs that might be looking into it. Now, I do have to ask, now that you've kind of understand esports, and I'm not going to ask you how old you are. I know for me, I'm back in the mid 80s playing Nintendo,
Yep.
but
Yep.
did you play video games as a kid? Would you pursue this as a kid if it was an option?
Yeah, I think every kid to some degree played, video game, whether it was Pac-Man, stand
Oh,
up
yeah.
machine to today Call of Duty in some capacity. Some
Right.
play more than others. That's all. So I certainly did play as a kid a little bit. Baseball was my passion. I love it. I still
Right.
love it to this day. But knowing what I know, so here's an interesting way to answer this.
Okay.
Knowing what I know about today's world,
Mhm.
there's actually more financial money from a scholarship perspective
Mhm.
for an esports athlete than there is for a baseball athlete.
Oh,
So
wow.
let
I
that
never thought
yeah.
about it that way. Yeah.
Yeah. So the opportunity financially for me growing up where I grew up,
Right.
we did fine as a family, but I didn't have the
Yeah.
best financial means, if you will.
Right.
I would have had more opportunity and more choice, if you will, if I had pursued esports, if it was
Right.
as big as it then as it is now, and opened more doors, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
than baseball could have then or even today. So
Right.
not every sport is like that. There are numbers, football, you can get a full ride, but obviously, again, your talent level has to be through the roof. There are a
Right.
number of schools from an esports perspective, even if your talent is not through the roof, you're getting significant money for it.
Yeah. And
So the opportunities are different, but I love baseball.
oh yeah. And I do have to ask, who's your team? I didn't ask you that. Who's your favorite pro team?
Growing up in New England, I am a huge Boston Red Sox fan.
Man, at
That's
least you
where I
didn't
grew
say.
up.
At least you didn't say the
Where I grew up.
Yankees.
No, that's a good day for a Red Sox fan is when the Yankees lose.
Yeah.
Regardless of what the Red Sox do.
Same for the Tigers fan. We just don't
Yeah.
care for the Yankees. It's fine. We can agree on that one.
Okay.
So how do kids get with us with Stay Plugged In or in front of colleges with Stay Plugged In?
Sure. So ours is, again, one of our missions is, again, to make this accessible to as many people as humanly possible,
Right.
regardless of financial background. So it's a freemium platform. And what that means is any kid can come in and compete in any tournament virtually for free. So by default, just by being in those tournaments, they're going to have some coaches that are on board watching, et cetera. Some of our bigger tournaments, even more in terms of the coaches that are there. We also are a subscription model where if they wanted a little bit more hand-holding, they wanted a little bit more specific details catered to what their specific needs are, we can certainly have more assets provided to them on that front. But that would be the first step. First and foremost, is just be out there, compete in the community, and be seen in that fashion. Secondly, try to figure out the type of school you would want to go to, because everyone's different. Some people want to go to Michigan, regardless of the esport, just because
it's Michigan. Yeah. That block M
tailgate on Saturday before the game, and kind of everything that comes with it. It's big campus, big community, et cetera. Others want nothing to do with that. They want to go small school. They get to know more and more of the people on campus, et cetera, and obviously anywhere in between, on top of obviously what you would want to focus in on academically. So understand those things, kind of start to do the searches as to what's near you, and we can connect you. We can connect you with exactly whom runs those programs, what they have to offer, both financially, academically, et cetera. And that's what we do literally 24/7.
And the best thing is they have a Discord. You can look into that. They have the Twitch, Stay Plugged In. You can tune into that and check out all their content on there. And then Twitter, obviously, at Stay Plugged In. That is a great tool as well. All the digital platforms. You can find ways and connect that way as well. So, again, a perfect way, or what I call a perfect blueprint for today's kids and getting a hold of you guys. What is the best way for a kid to present or show this to their parent? So let's say mom and dad haven't heard this yet.
Yep.
but little Joey, little Susie is like, oh, this would be the best way to present this to mom and dad. How would they go about presenting this to mom and dad, or just their esports in general?
Yeah, that's a tough one, only because for most parents, this is something incredibly new to them. How can they watch and support this and understand again what those opportunities look like?
Right.
So the first step is making a correlation with those parents to hopefully have them at least take the step to let me sit down and figure out a little bit more. And
Right.
I look at it this way: imagine baseball back when it first started, first ever game. And people in the stands must have been like, what in the world are they doing? They're throwing a little ball, they're swinging a stick at it, and then they got to run around. I don't get it. What is
Right.
this?
Right.
Right. So, parents, if you watch esports for the first time, you're going to feel the same way at the
Yeah.
end of the day.
Yeah.
So
I
we
mean, it
understand
really
that
is. Yeah.
it's foreign, but give it a chance. Spend some time with your kid and do that. For the kids that are trying to show their parents and find out what's the best way to present this, have an open and honest conversation. First and foremost, sit them down and say, look, I'm real interested in this, and look at what this community looks like at the next level,
Right.
collegiately. Look at this website, look at how many dollars they've facilitated, look how many people are part of this, look at all the colleges that are involved with this, and then find some of the bigger name schools in your area. And again, you will find that those schools that your parents have familiarity with, or at least have heard of, have esports programs, period. Again, Michigan, Ohio State, doesn't matter who it is. The Big East has a full conference for esports. Boise State, one of the leaders in the esports varsity programs in the country. We do a lot of podcasts with the coach of the year from there, Doc Haskell.
Yeah.
So Oklahoma, full ride scholarship money for esports. Arizona, the same. So again, these are big name schools, and it's only going to be more and more prevalent. So for you kids, do a little research, find out what's out there, what's available. And I think if you do your homework and bring that to your parents, that's step one. The second part of that is we talk about foundationally getting this right, if done correctly, right?
Right.
It's both sides. If you're asking your parents to meet you, have them meet you halfway.
Right.
Make sure you come back and say, look, in return, I'll make sure that I practice what I'm supposed to practice. I'll go to competitions when I'm supposed to go to competitions. I won't be up at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday right before school, trying to play.
Right.
Same with baseball or football, right? Parents are going to allow you to practice and do your thing to get better and better because those opportunities are there. They want the best for you, but you got to do it the right way.
Correct. And we had Doc Haskell on the podcast as well. And yeah, when you talk about somebody who's kind of doing it the right way, we all always point to Doc and be like, yeah, that guy is coach of the year for a reason. But yeah, majors, D2, D3s, college, JUCOs, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, they're all have these programs for a reason, and they all have it, kind of wrapped around what is unique to the colleges. So like you said, do your homework, meet your parents halfway. Don't blindside them and be like, yo, I'm doing this. You can't do nothing about it. But, be, professional about it, just as like you would expect them to be professional about it with you. So yeah, 100%. I'm just check marking the agree boxes with you because I'm going right down the list with you. So, okay, let's turn to the parents here. How do parents go about contacting you if they have questions or concerns? Obviously, we mentioned you have Discord, you have Twitter, you have the website. But how do parents, say in Northern Michigan that might not know much about Twitter or Discord or anything like that, contact you with questions or concerns?
Yeah, twofold. I have a direct hand in this all day, every day myself.
Mm-hmm.
Again, for me, the passion lies in finding a pathway for that child.
Right.
No matter what they're interested in, frankly, but to get to that next level. In this case, it just happens to be through esports. So I'll be on a phone call or answering emails literally every single day from parents that have questions because it's new and we get it and that's fine. But to date, even on our website, if you look at the phone number that's on there, that's my personal cell phone, literally by default. So, and if I'm on the phone, I'll return the call, if you leave me a voicemail, or you can just email me, rick.suarez@eastman.gg, or if you did info@esports.gg, that'll get to me as well. I take this hands-on and personally, and it's long and exhausting, but it's very rewarding and it's worth every single minute because again, I was in the same shoes and I kicked myself almost every day over the last 5 years because I wish I would have known better then. Because I know for sure my son went on to play baseball. I guarantee you he would have went on to play some sort of esport at a college or university, and he would have had a much better time than the 4 years that he had playing baseball. Not that he had a bad time, but his passion is esports, period. And I wish I would have recognized that a little sooner.
I mean, and as a parent, you want nothing but, happiness and you see your kids succeed. and I've had many parents say, I just want the best for little Jimmy or, little Susie. And esports is just like, it's so new, they just don't know. And you guys are there. And that's, first of all, hats off, given, you are all on board. You are pushing everything in and helping and being that guy. So again, hats off to you, sir. Because, being in Northern Michigan, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to educate and inform people who may not be all in or may not even have a chip in yet because they just don't know the opportunities. So with your background in coaching, playing traditional athletics, and just competitive spirit in general, because I know you have that in you, how does that help stay plugged in and getting kids where they need to go?
Yeah, sure. You mentioned it in saying the competitive spirit in me. I'm competitive in everything.
Yeah, everything, dude.
Everything. Doesn't matter. I don't want my kids beating me in anything. I don't care what it is.
Monopoly,
So,
Battleship, it doesn't matter.
doesn't
We're
matter.
winning, dude.
Doesn't matter. So I take that same initiative into what we do at work here. And with every single child that comes across, again, no matter what their talent level is, what their background is, where their parents are with this or not, we do a complete job of making sure we check all of our boxes, if you will, to make sure that the parents are as informed as possible. And esports may not end up being for that child, and that's fine, but at least they had the information to make the right decision. And to us, that's the most critical component for both sides. Because not every single story ends up with, he got exactly what he wanted or she wanted and going to the exact same school they wanted to go to or she wanted to go to. That happens in traditional sports too.
Right.
At the end of the day. So we're very realistic and optimistic about what we're able to provide, but we're very methodical in how we go about it. We're intentional in our effort to ensure that, again, our goal is that support system and foundation is laid at home.
Right.
So that it can really pave the way to where that son or daughter will end up in the long term. And that is success for us.
Oh yeah. And I mean, again, another agreed checkbox checked for you. It really is something when you lay the foundation first at home. I mean, it's just going to be much easier when you get down the road, both for the parents and for the kids. And I think we've said it so many times, we're just trying to get it in the head is it's got to go both ways, Don't be the little prick and, don't fight your parents on it, but try to, as parents and as kids, meet in the middle and show, or maybe even get dad or mom to sit down and watch a game with you while you're playing, or maybe introduce them to esports in some fashion where there's a tournament on and show them, hey, look, this is what I'm really interested in. Would you guys mind watching a match with me? There's so many different avenues that you can do it. And again, we're so young in this program or these esports that there's so many different ways of attacking it. And you guys have many steps in helping kids and students, get the goals, have them be happy, but at the same time, financially be able to go to school and get what they need to get to further, better their life. So again, hats off. Is there anything else that you'd like to add about Stay Plugged In? We have reached the end of questions. You're almost off the hot seat. You're not there yet, but
I love it. No, just again, kind of dovetailing what you're saying, our motto is better player, better person, better recruit.
Yeah.
So we talk a lot in this conversation about, having the parents understand and seeing what the opportunities are, getting the information. And I know we talk about kids meeting them halfway, but that's part of what we hang our hat on as well. We have conversations all day, every day with kids to help them understand that you're probably, if your parents aren't understanding it fully, there's probably something wrong in the messaging. Right. Are you staying up too late? Are you eating at odd hours because you're in the middle of a competition? Are they pulling you from a competition at 6:30 in the afternoon or in the evening to come eat because you never told them in advance, hey, I actually have this coming up and this is what this actually is. And this is why it's important to me, etc. Parents aren't going to just automatically jump on board. They need to see that those kids are going to do what they need to do on their end to make this accessible for themselves. So it's a juggling act. We're dealing with both, but again, we're doing it 24/7.
Yep. And I mean, this goes for many things. Like I talked to a middle school esport program. They're starting to set up as young as middle schoolers in a few schools in our area. High schools are slowly popping up, but I think what you'll see is you will see better kind of foundations built once high schools start getting more information and start getting more programs like that, because then you'll start seeing more of that traditional practice, nutrition, weightlifting thing kind of fall into place. Right now, everyone's kind of doing it on their own for the most part, kind of a little wild, wild west, if you will. But yeah, like you said, do it right. Do it where, eat right. Don't be up 8 hours sessioning all the way through 3, 4 a.m. Do your homework. be the student athlete, even though you're not athletic right now at high school per se, because they don't have a program, but be the athlete that traditional sports have. Just do it on your own. And
Yeah.
I guarantee you things will be way better down the road. So, all right,
No
your
doubt.
questions are done, but you're
Yep.
not done yet. You're not on the hot seat. I have a fun little game that I play with everybody every podcast, just 10 random questions. And usually I would always give them a minute to do it. But the problem is after the first podcast, we're like, there's no way you can do these in a minute because everybody wants to justify their answers. So these are just random questions. Nothing. They're not all esports related. They're not, it's just random questions. First thing that comes to your head, spot them out, Rick. And we'll go right off bat here. Number one, what is your favorite platform or console for video games? You said you played a little bit, but what is your favorite video game console? I would assume, I don't know if you're a PC guy, but what's your favorite console/platform when it comes to video games?
If I was mouse and keyboard, I'd be horrible. But Xbox.
Xbox? Yeah.
Xbox is my console of choice.
It seems like it's a very traditional answer around here because a lot of people started on Xbox or Xbox opens online gaming to a lot of people. And I think Xbox, all around, they just kind of push the envelope for everybody. But now I have to ask, since we got Xbox, what's your favorite game to play, though?
Call of Duty by far. That is a stress reliever for me, period. I can go mindlessly around maps trying to, whether I'm sniping or just kind of just hanging out in a corner waiting for people to come by, et cetera. Whatever it is, that's something that I'll do periodically to go from there. But also Halo, obviously the new Halo.
Oh, yeah, Halo's great. Yeah.
That's a game everyone's gravitating to.
And I will say the new Halo did feel so good because Halo 2 kind of opened the door for me for a lot of online gaming. So this one felt very traditional, which was really nice. I do have Vanguard, and I'm a Call of Duty kid. That's where I started with online gaming. So Call of Duty, of course, a great choice. Go-to snack, though. What is your go-to snack, whether you're busy in meetings or if you're in a session? What are you snacking on?
I try to stay a little bit healthy as best as I can. So nuts in particular, whether it's peanuts, walnuts, cashews.
I think that's kind of the baseball player in you.
It is a little bit.
Yeah.
Because you had seeds growing up all the time.
Yeah.
So this is an easy transition to
peanuts
throw them in and be done.
Yeah. I think that is definitely the ball player in you. Favorite TV show and movie?
Favorite TV show, current favorite TV show. Man, I don't know your audience age, but I will say currently my favorite, I'm catching up, but Ted Lasso.
Oh, Ted Lasso's a great show.
Yeah.
That's a great show.
Just started catching up. The energy that guy brings in and day out, and his good attitude day in and day out is fantastic. But
yeah, that's a good show.
That's probably one. From a movie perspective. Man, there's quite a few. Favorite movie. I think the most recent, I guess I'll go with. Marvel movies are all great.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, so
I do love some Marvels.
Yep, I would say their last one. Where they, I forget the exact title, but they were able to get rid of Thanos. So sorry if I spoiled it for anybody who.
Endwar.
Endwar.
Yeah, Endwar was that was a
Endgame.
Endgame. That's what it is. Yeah, Endgame. Sorry. Endwar.
Yep.
There's so many Marvel movies anymore. I'm so lost.
There are. So,
but yeah, that was a cinematic experience.
Yeah,
I cried in the movie theater. They all came out of the bubbles at the end. I was like, oh my goodness. Because I've spent 10 years of my life watching these movies and following the story. And then it's just like, you're invested. Exactly. It's just like any traditional sport where you're invested in a team, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we did it. And then at the end of that movie, I was like, oh my gosh. All right. So favorite pro team from a traditional sport aspect is probably the Red Sox, I'm assuming. But what is your favorite pro team from a traditional sport?
Hands down. Grew up in that area. Loved going to Fenway Park. Actually was able to play with a couple of guys that ended up playing for the Red Sox as I was growing up. So that was always neat. But, that's who my dad grew up watching and everything else. Nice. So love the Red Sox.
I will say Fenway is one of those parks that is just absolutely phenomenal. Like the Green Monster. I mean, it's just one of those parks that I hate playing in when we're there, but I love seeing it. It's just one of those old. You will never get a park like that anymore. You know what I'm saying? Nope. It's just one of those parks.
Agreed.
First car.
First car was a Honda hatchback. I'm trying to remember, but it wasn't a Civic, but it was a small Honda hatchback growing up where it was a used car, all I could afford, but it had four wheels.
Nice. Got you to A and B.
Ultimately, that's what I needed.
Yeah. Got you to A to B and then back to A. Mine was an 89 Ford Probe.
Gotcha.
Has a white, red interior with flip-up lights. Let me tell you, in the winter when one just popped up, that was odd. Number 9. Okay, so this one's kind of out of left field. It's one of those. First, before I skipped one, cat or dog person?
Dog.
Dog. There you go. All right, number 9. Would you rather be attacked by one horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses?
Man, I hate to say this, but we run this in our office a little bit as well. I always go with the 100
duck-sized
horses because yes, I can stomp on them. And
Yeah.
I'm sorry for all you animal lovers out there.
No,
But
that's
that
what a lot of
one
people say.
big animal would
Yeah.
creep me out.
Yeah,
I'm telling
dude.
you.
That one giant-sized duck, I don't know. A lot of
Yeah.
people said they would duck whisper it or have bread, but I was like, I don't know, man. I can climb a
Good
tree to
luck.
get away from 100 horse-sized or
There you
duck-sized
go.
horses, you know?
There's many ways around that. I
Yeah.
could go up on the main stage and they can't get up there. So there you go.
Exactly. All right, last question, brother, and I appreciate your time here. I know you're a busy man, but number 10, anywhere in the world, where are you going, brother?
Somewhere in the Caribbean.
The Caribbean.
Yeah, love the water, love the beach, love the warm weather. So if
I will
could get
say
out
you're
and
the
then go
first
away,
person to
that's
say the Caribbean.
when- Ooh, really? Where's
lot
everyone
of-
going?
A lot of people have gone to Japan or say they would like to go to Japan, Ireland, Europe.
Yeah.
Mine is
Okay.
Hawaii.
Yeah, same reason.
Yeah, it is because
Beautiful island.
75
great
at night,
scenery.
90 during the day, 85
Love
degree water temperature.
Exactly.
If I didn't love the Four
That's-
Seasons as much, I would be there.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Yeah,
So,
I'm with you there, brother.
all right, stay plugged in. Managing Director Rick Suarez, thank you, sir, for joining me on the One Up XP show. I do appreciate it. Make sure you guys check out the website, espin.gg, their Twitter, their Discord, their Twitch. Parents, players alike, if you're interested in esports in college, this is the man to hit up. And their side of things, they can hopefully get you to the right school with scholarships under esports. Thank you, Rick. I appreciate it, man. Thank you for joining me, and thank you for your time.
My pleasure. Again, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
No problem.